We get the idea of needs in the draft, in T-building, wrong all the time. So how do we get them right? And what are the Green Bay Packers' needs as we head toward the draft?
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski. I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. This is one of my favorite shows every year. I look forward to it every year. And I came up with this concept a couple years ago, I think during COVID. And it was because I had my eyes opened to this concept of value when it comes to the NFL draft. Need is the wrong way to think about it because need in the draft almost always relies on the evaluation of the team today. And the team today is not going to be the team tomorrow. And the team tomorrow is not going to be the team a year from now. And it's not going to be the team 2 years from now. And the Packers, maybe more than any other team in the NFL, not only do they care about that, they plan for that. It's why they are comfortable taking a Rashawn Gary and letting it work itself out, a Jordan Love and letting it work itself out. And that frustrates Packer fans, and I understand that. But what we have to think about is, and I said this right when the Packers drafted Jordan Love. You can go back. It's a Periscope now. I don't know if you even still have those apps, but it was on a Periscope. And I said, if Jordan Love starts 2 years on his rookie contract, and the answer is probably really one, he can provide more value in the aggregate than almost any receiver the Packers could have taken. Now, it turns out T. Higgins is a $30 million receiver. That didn't look likely when I was saying it on draft night in 2020. That's still true, though. It is. Jordan Love, 1 year of Jordan Love, is more valuable to the Packers than probably at least 3 seasons of even a really, really good receiver. Just in you want to look at wins above replacement, you want to look at estimated points at whatever, any of those things. That's what the numbers say, and that's what we know intuitively about the position. So when you look at the draft, you want to find the players, and the phrase that I have come up with, who maximally improve your team over the life of their rookie contracts. Who is going to make your team the most improved, the most better, right? It's not just who's going to make it better right now today. Because again, the team right now today is not going to be the team tomorrow. And so when we look at, we've talked about historical hit rates. What's convenient for the Packers is you look at historical hit rates, the positions where the league tends to be the best at identifying talent are the most valuable ones. Pass rusher, corner, offensive tackle, receiver. They're kind of meh at quarterback, but most of the really, really good ones are in the first round, even though the hit rate's low. If you want to get a really good quarterback, chances are you got to draft him in the first round. So, where does that leave us for the Green Bay Packers? Well, on offense, it leaves us in a pretty straightforward position. The most valuable position on the field is quarterback. Well, there's not really an opportunity at quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. It's Jordan Love's show for the foreseeable future. Number one in explosive play rate last year. I was trying to dig into the numbers and figure out, okay, why do the advanced stats love him so much more than the traditional counting stats? And I think that's the biggest reason why. But Malik Willis is going into the last year of his deal. 2022 draft pick. The Packers, I don't think it's crazy to think that if they find someone on day 3 that they like, or they think they can get someone on day 3, that they trade Malik Willis going into the last year of his deal, either at the draft, after the draft, in August, when a team might get a little desperate, at the trade deadline, when a team might be a little desperate, or early in the season when a team might be a little desperate, after they've already picked and started to groom another quarterback. I think that's very much in play for the Green Bay Packers. On offense, the next most valuable position to me is receiver. When you look at what one player can do, because offensive line is a weak link system. It is not about how good your best players are. It's about how bad your worst players are. And the signing of Aaron Banks allows you to say, okay, Rasheed Walker, Zach Tom is going to get paid. Rasheed Walker will see, but you have Jordan Morgan to slide right in. If you draft an offensive tackle, they're not going to have a chance, in all likelihood, to play offensive tackle. And it would be a gross misuse of resources to take another tackle, let's say in the first round, but even in the top 100, I think, given the current state of this offensive line. Now I think, okay, now third round, you might be able to justify it. Second round, someone you had a high first round grade on ends up being there. Always take your lineman, especially because Sean Ryan might not be on the team going into the last year of his deal. Rasheed Walker, as I mentioned. So if Jordan Morgan's going to be your left tackle and Aaron Banks is going to be your left guard and Josh Myers is going to be out the door because Elton Jenkins is coming in, you might need a right guard. Well, the Packers in 2022 used a top 100 pick on a right guard in Sean Ryan. So maybe in the third round, there's an opportunity there. Receiver is the position, though, because you have Christian Watson hurt. You have the risk of injury that Romeo Doubs poses. And you've got Jayden Reed, who is primarily a slot receiver. Now, Mecole Hardman is in the mix now. We're going to talk about him at the end because that's where that conversation deserves to be had. But Romeo Doubs in the last year of his deal, Christian Watson in the last year of his deal, and he's not going to play until Halloween at least. So there are real opportunities, not just this year, but moving forward at that position. So when it comes to offense, it's pretty clear to me, tight end, they're in a good spot. Running back, they're in a great spot. The player who can make this team maximally improved over the life of his rookie contract. And you know, we're a year from having to have a conversation about extensions for Dontavian Wicks, for Jayden Reed. This all happens fast. You have this great young group of receivers. No one turns into bona fide field stretcher, field tilter, impact player type guys. And you're going, okay, who are you going to pay and who are you not going to pay? And right now, I'm not convinced any of these guys are getting second contracts in Green Bay. I'm better than 50-50 on Jayden Reed. I don't know about anybody else. So to me, receiver isn't just a need. It is a player that can maximally improve your offense because of the value of the position, because of the opportunities for snaps that they will get, and the potential upgrade that we are talking about here. Now, you have to get the upgrade, right? You have to make sure that you get a player that's better. You don't know that you're going to get a player that's better. You might try, but the idea is you're hoping to bring in talent that improves what you already have and then gives you opportunities to improve down the line. This is, to me, a more interesting conversation about the defense. So what are the needs? Where, not just the needs, right? Where what positions will maximally improve this roster moving forward. Let's talk about that on defense next on Locked On Packers. Imagine watching your favorite team live, feeling the energy of the crowd and witnessing unforgettable moments. There's nothing like experiencing the big game or a big game, a big basketball game, perhaps in person. Getting tickets shouldn't be stressful. That's where Gametime comes in, making it easier than ever to grab last-minute seats at unbelievable prices. Gametime Picks makes it easier because curation makes it easier to find better value for tickets to sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime app has always got amazing deals. Every time I look, I go, that's a good deal. If I could go and find a babysitter, that'd be great. I would love to do that. Yes, please. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. So on defense, there is this conversation of coverage versus pass rush. And where the analytics nerds net out on this, said the analytics nerd, coverage is slightly more valuable than pass rush, but coverage is a weak link system, just like offensive line. So it's not about how good your good players are. It's how bad your bad players are. Think about how many New England Patriots defenses over the years were just awesome. And you go, I don't know that I can name 3 players on that defense. But they were all rock solid. They knew where to be at all times. There was no matchup where you could go, I can pick on that guy all day. Even though they were inferior talents to, the receivers, the Marvin Harrisons and the Reggie Waynes, when your safeties are in the right spots, when your linebackers are in the right spots, when your rushers are pretty good and you can get enough pressure, you're going to be okay. And the Packers last year proved this. They proved it. Because with Keyshawn Nixon playing boundary for the first time, a rookie in Javon Bullard who had a very up and down season, but who really was not a nickel to start his NFL career. And then you have this rotation of Eric Stokes and Carrington Valentine that is now over. Carrington Valentine has that job until Nate Hobbs came along, right? Now he has that job, and we'll see how that rotation shakes out. We'll see how the matchups, how they want to mix and match those things. But especially because they have Nate Hobbs. We saw Keyshawn Nixon play more than good enough. And now you have Nate Hobbs, who is a solid corner, has the potential to be even better for the Packers in a primary zone scheme with some flexibility to play in the slot and can play man coverage from the slot. The right matchup, Amon-Ra St. Brown on 3rd and 8. Maybe that's who you want in there. There's some flexibility that this gives you now. And remember, this was a top 10 defense. So in this conversation of pass rush versus coverage, if coverage is more important, but it's a weak link system, then one pass rusher impacts your defense more than one corner. And we know the Packers pass rush needs an upgrade, and Kingsley Enagbare going into the last year of his deal. And we haven't seen enough out of Lucas Van Ness to believe that he is even a starting caliber player. And we'll see what Brenton Cox is, a very encouraging second half of the season. But you need bodies here. Now, you don't have to get your pass rusher on the edge. You could get him in the middle of the defense, right? Devontae Wyatt was the best interior pass rusher on this team. Carl Brooks also. But what is the future of Kenny Clark? I think he's going to be a nose tackle this season. But if you draft someone like Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, and I apologize, someone pointed this out to me. I often say names assuming people know A, who they are, and B, where they're from. So Kenneth Grant is the defensive tackle from Michigan. He's huge. He is freakish for movement skills at his size. Derek Harmon, similar vibe. Huge, University of Oregon, defensive tackle, 3, almost identical in size, in fact, to Kenny Clark. And every bit the athlete of prime early Kenny Clark. Just had a pro day. John Eric Sullivan was there. Brian Gutekunst was there. Like the whole brain trust for the Packers was there. He seems to me right now like the favorite to be the pick at 23. But what you're getting in a defensive tackle here is someone who can be a long-term piece. Devontae Wyatt, we don't know. They've got a decision to make on his long-term future. Carl Brooks going into the last year of his contract. Next year. So a year from now, we'll be having a conversation. Okay, what's the future of Carl Brooks? Kenny Clark, the way the money is, the first opportunity to get off that contract, if he has another year in 2025, what year is it today? That he had in 2024, it's hard to imagine him being on the roster in 2026. Now, even if that's not true, he's getting older. He's got a lot of miles, which means that the tread on those tires is getting a little thin. It would be interesting if he played well and you drafted someone like Derek Harmon, what you would do. I would say you just keep the good players. You've already paid him. And Derek Harmon or Kenneth Grant would be on rookie scale deals. So you'd probably be able to make it all work. You might let Devontae Wyatt go and say, hey, Carl Brooks, you're our guy for another year. But there is the potential here for big opportunities. Certainly in 2 years, you might be getting the lion's share of early down snaps. And if you're the kind of player like Kenneth Grant, like Derek Harmon, that can also rush the passer, you have third down utility as well. If I'm looking at this from the Packers at 23, defensively, they're in a good spot at linebacker right now. They seem to want to keep Quay Walker. We know the safeties are great. Corner is a weak link system. The best pass rusher at 23. I wish there was some sort of like mnemonic or something that I could get to make my brain not want to mush pass rush. But everyone has it. I don't know the people that consistently can say it right. God bless you. The best pass rusher they can draft at 23 is the move. Now, again, we're not saying anything sparkling here. We're saying the things that you expected, I think. But we've been through free agency now, so it would change. I think offensive line would have been higher had they not gone out and signed Aaron Banks. If they had signed Josh Sweat instead of Aaron Banks, we might be going, without a doubt, you've got to take the defensive tackle. Or maybe corner would be higher up on the list of priorities here. I think if Jahdae Barron or someone like that, Will Johnson is there at 23, you absolutely consider that. Because this is a very deep defensive line class, and it's not a very deep corner class. And so, okay, if you're going to take your corner early, you still probably kind of want to get a receiver on day 2. Now you're limiting your options to add these pass rushers, and you probably want 2. You probably want an interior and an edge pass rusher. That's why, to me, I would lean into, hey, you signed Nate Hobbs so that you don't have to prioritize the corner. You signed Aaron Banks so that you don't have to prioritize offensive tackle because you might lose Rasheed Walker next year. So that's where the Packers find themselves right now. To me, you've made the investment in Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary. You like what you're getting from Brenton Cox, but you don't know what Devontae Wyatt's going to bring you, and you don't know if Kenny Clark is going to be on this team in a year. I think defensive tackle is this continues to be a every down defensive tackle, not some, snap guessing, explosive, one gap penetrating 3 technique. They did that with Devontae Wyatt, and that's kind of what Carl Brooks is, though Carl Brooks had to play some nose tackle last year just to give Kenny Clark some more opportunities as a 3-tech and TJ Slayton as the nose. I think you're going to see Kenny Clark more in that nose tackle spot, but does that wear him down then as a pass rusher for third downs? It was a big year for Kenny Clark. But that's why, to me, and the defensive tackle class falls off significantly. I think there is a near near certainty one of Kenneth Grant or Derek Harmon is going to be there at 23. I would be floored if one of those guys wasn't there. But when you look at 54 or in the 80s when the Packers drafted in the third round, I'm not nearly as certain that there is going to be a player who fits their athletic model, who fits their needs in the same way. And historical hit rates say find your pass rusher in the first round if you can. So you just pick edge, DT. I think you can make the case that based on the snaps that are most likely to be available the soonest, DT is the spot. Well, that has brought us here to Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant. Welcome. One of you is a Green Bay Packer. Also, Mecole Hardman, a Green Bay Packer. That's next on Locked On Packers.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. Now that the season is over, get the latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. The Mecole Hardman signing, on X, I compared it to, I said it was fast guy insulation for the draft, so you don't have to feel like you have to go into the draft. Oh, we have to get a fast guy. We have to get a fast guy. But it's insulation in the way that newspaper on the Lambeau concrete when you're at a game in January is insulation. Like, it helps. You don't lose all your heat through your boots into the concrete, but it's a marginal difference. This is a help for your return game because you're not putting extra miles on Jayden Reed. You're not putting extra miles on Keyshawn Nixon, who is now a no-doubt starting cornerback for you. Keyshawn Nixon even said, I kind of don't even want to do it because the rules, and he was pouting a little bit, right? But he's right in that the new rules are not friendly to returners. Now, Mecole Hardman has been known to make some boneheaded decisions on punt returns, but he is dynamic when he has the ball in his hand because he can absolutely fly. So if all this does is give the Packers Tyler Ervin 2.0, and I'm not even talking about 2020 Tyler Ervin, I'm talking about like 2019 Tyler Ervin. Fine. That's a positive signing for the Packers. They're better with Mecole Hardman. Because Jayden Reed, by the way, I love Jayden Reed, has not proven to be a dynamic returner in the NFL. Just hasn't. I like the idea of Jayden Reed punt returner, but this is not, putting Odell Beckham back there in specialty situations. Like, it's just not. Mecole Hardman has much more juice and just much more dynamic ability back there. There's also the offensive piece of this, and I wrote about this today in The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. One of the reasons why Jayden Reed, and there was an account that mostly does fantasy football that tweeted like, Jayden Reed only getting the number of targets that he got last year is a war crime. Hyperbole, of course. One of the reasons why, though, is there were too many times last year where you're in 11 personnel, 3 receivers on the field. You send Jayden Reed in jet motion, orbit motion. You're creating uncertainty in the defense. You're making them, scramble and make sure you're getting aligned and getting everybody set. And if you're in man coverage, you got to make sure you're running with those guys. But then they're not really in the route all the time. Now, they've done a better job of using the cheat motion and, jet into jet wheel. And it's not just like when the Packers were doing it in 2020 with Tyler Ervin, it was a lot of jet motion into check down. Like that's what Tyler Ervin was, which was fine because Tyler Ervin was not really a receiver, not really a route runner, just a guy that was out there. But what Hardman would allow you to do is you could actually have that orbit motion guy or that jet motion guy, and he's a threat because Hardman is a threat, and he's a vertical threat. And you could have Jayden Reed on the field. I've talked a lot about wanting to play Jayden Reed more on the boundary. Just see if in 12 personnel, you can have him out there. Just see. And it doesn't, like, you don't even always have to be getting off press. You put him in this at the Z spot, which sounds, is that a bar in a show? Feels like it. That would allow you to have them both on the field at the same time. And Hardman can run some routes off that. All of a sudden you have him running those jet wheels, and defense has got to go, oh crap. It is some insulation, so you don't have to feel like, okay, if let's say Jaden Higgins is the best option, like the defensive guys fly off the board, there is that, that non-zero chance. Harbin's gone, Ezraku's gone, Grant's gone, Barron's gone, Will Johnson's gone, and you're like, man, maybe just take Jaden Higgins, which, by the way, I'm on board with. But you're not getting, yes, he's a 4-4-7 guy. Yes, he's a vertical threat. But he doesn't scare defenses the way that Christian Watson does. And certainly wouldn't early on. But Hardman gives you some of that. So some of that insurance. That on day 3, you could take a Dante Thornton, for example, from Tennessee. And even though he's not ready to be a full-time receiver for you, you could give him some snaps if you wanted. Now, I think there's reasonable questions to ask. Like, is that better than just having Bo Melton do that thing? I would say probably, frankly. And I like Bo Melton a lot, but I think we saw last year there were times when there was a little too much Bo Melton and a little too much Malik Heath on the field. This team needs to lean into its best players. It can't be that Malik Heath is getting more reps in 12 personnel than Jayden Reed. You have to get your best players on the field. And I think Hardman gives them an opportunity. And you're going to think I'm overselling this, and I get it. But it's going to give you an opportunity to use Jayden Reed more as a receiver while maintaining the gimmicks, the little gadget stuff that you want to do as Matt LaFleur, which help this offense, which make this offense go in a lot of ways. You can do that and make sure that your best receiver is still getting an opportunity to be a receiver, to win routes, to win vertically where he's awesome. That is the plus side of someone like Hardman. And again, it is some level of insulation. That if you can't get a Jalen Royals, who I just think is such a great fit, if you wanted to get crazy aggressive, Jalen Noel, who's, not the right body type, a little short arms, probably a slot at the next level. But if you think Jayden Reed can play outside, maybe Jalen Noel makes sense. I doubt it, but maybe. These other guys, these big body guys, you still need the speed. And that's the thing that the Packers have to make sure that they don't go in the draft going, we have to get a speed receiver. You have someone here that can give you some of that. Remember, the Chiefs had to basically bring him back because they didn't have that. They wanted to do other stuff with Xavier Worthy, and they needed both. So this is an interesting move. It's maybe not that impactful of a move, but it's interesting. It's pretty similar to like the Sammy Watkins move in that was never really going to be, he was never going to be, in all likelihood, a real part of the offense. But every once in a while, you'd make some plays and you go, oh, that's nice. Now, Sammy Watkins was once upon a time a real receiver when the Packers signed him, but there's a defined role here for Hardman coming in. Returner, gadget, speed insurance. For basically no money, this is fine. All right, more to come. Back tomorrow. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on the social medias, Locked On Packers. We got some clips coming out on the Instagram Reels, on the TikToks, on the good, all the good ones. And subscribe wherever you find podcasts. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe so you can stay Locked On Packers.